Let's talk about one of the most powerful tools in networking, the command line interface, or CLI. You know that blinking cursor on a black screen? It can seem a little intimidating at first, I get it. But by the end of this, you're going to see it as your direct line to your network hardware. We're going to make this simple, clear, and super practical. So, picture this. You've just pulled a brand new, powerful network switch right out of the box. It's just sitting there with a super generic factory name, probably just switch. So, how do you talk to it? How do you actually give it instructions? Well, the answer is the CLI. It's the language we use to get these devices configured and managed. Okay, let's dive right in. The absolute best way to think about the Cisco IOS is that it's a language. And just like any language, it has its own grammar, right? A specific structure we have to follow so the device actually understands what we're trying to say. This means using the right command, with the right format, in the right place. At its heart, the syntax is actually pretty simple. It usually starts with a command. That's the action you want to take. Think of it like the verb in a sentence. After that, you'll often have keywords that narrow down the action and arguments that provide the specific details. So let's break down what those last two things really mean. A keyword is a specific option that's already built into the operating system. You can think of it like a multiple choice question. The system gives you a set of choices, and you just have to pick the one you need. You can't just make one up on the fly. An argument, though, is your custom input. It's not a preset choice. It's a value that you, the user, get to provide. This is where you'll type in things like an IP address, a device name, or a password. It's basically the fill-in-the-blank part of the command. And here you can see that whole structure in action. With commands like ping and traceroute, the command itself is the action we want to take. The argument, the IP address, is the value that we supply. So you can think of the command as the what and the argument as the where. It's as simple as that. All right, time for our very first practical task. Seriously, the first thing you should always do with a new device is give it a unique name, what we call a host name. I mean, if all your devices are just called Switch, you'll never know which one you're actually working on. A good descriptive name like Swish Floor 1 confirms you're in the right place before you make a really critical change. Now, you can't just name it anything you want, but the rules are pretty simple. It has to start with a letter, it can't have any spaces, and it needs to be under 64 characters. Just stick to letters, numbers, and dashes, and you'll be totally fine. So how do we actually do it? Well, it's a quick two-step process. First, you type configure terminal. This basically gets you into what's called global configuration mode. Think of it like popping the hood on the car. You're ready to make some real changes. Then, you just use the command hostname, followed by whatever name you've picked out. And check that out. You get an immediate payoff. The second you hit enter, the command prompt changes from that boring default switch to your new name. That's your visual proof that it worked. It might seem like a small change, but hey, that's your first successful configuration. Okay, so our device has an identity. Now we've got to secure it. This next step is like installing locks on all the digital doors to your device. Because without passwords, pretty much anyone with physical access can just waltz right in and start causing chaos. Before we actually set any passwords, let's just do a quick refresher on what makes a strong one. You want something longer than 8 characters, for sure. You want to mix everything in there, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols. And seriously, don't use common words or the same password for all your devices. The first lock we're going to set is for what's called user exec mode. You can think of this as the front door, the basic view-only access level. To do this, we jump into the console line configuration with line console 0. We set a password with the password command. And then, and this is super important, we type login. That last command tells the device to actually check for the password. So many people forget that step. The next lock is for the admin office, or what's called privileged exec mode. This is where you can make all the big system-wide changes. Securing this is even more important. And lucky for us, it's just one really powerful command from global config mode. Enable secret, followed by a very, very strong password. Okay, so we've set our passwords. We should be safe, right? Well, not exactly. There's a hidden problem. By default, if you look at the device's configuration file, some of those passwords are just stored in plain text. That means anyone who can get a look at that file can literally just read your password. It's completely exposed. Yeah, that's a massive security risk. Just having your passwords sitting there in plain English is like leaving your front door wide open. it pretty much cancels out all the security work we just did. Thankfully, the fix for this is incredibly easy. It's one global command, service password-encryption. This command tells the device to scramble up all the plain text passwords in the configuration. Now, it's not unbreakable encryption, but it's more than enough to stop casual snooping, and it protects both the passwords we just set and any new ones we create later. And here is the proof, right here. Before, the password Cisco is just sitting there, totally readable. After running that one command, it's scrambled into something that makes no sense to a human. That is a huge security improvement from a single line of code. For our last basic setup step, let's put up a warning sign. This is called a banner, and it's basically a message that shows up for anyone who tries to log in. It's your digital keep out sign or authorized personnel only warning, which can actually be really important for legal reasons. The command is banner mod, which stands for message of the day. The trick here is what's called the delimiting character. In this example, it's the pound sign. You just have to start and end your message with the exact same symbol. That's how the system knows where your message begins and ends. You can use pretty much any character you want, just as long as that character isn't actually part of your message itself. Wow, okay, so we've actually covered a lot of ground in just a few minutes. Let's pull all of that together into a simple checklist you can use every single time you're setting up a new device. Here it is, your 5 essential first steps. Number 1, give the device a unique name so you know what you're working on. 2, secure that basic console port. 3, lock down the admin level access with a strong secret. 4, scramble all your passwords so they're not in plain text. And 5, put up a warning banner. If you do these 5 things every time, you'll have a really solid security foundation to build on. So look at that. You've taken a blank box and you've given it an identity and a solid layer of security. You're no longer just staring at a blinking cursor. You are now having a conversation with your network. So the real question is, what do you want to build next?